You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News. Let's go back to Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Welcome back to our last segment of Inside the News, where we put a bow on the program. Ben Brunson, myself, Guy Wehman, and Frank Vernuccio, which is where we're going to start. Now, the topic is, it's time for America to rise up, be bold, and to move forward. And Frank off air brought a really neat point about the 72 million. Despite all the efforts by every media, they still voted for Donald Trump. I believe the 72 million, they're aware of what's going on, and I have faith in the American people, in decency, justice, and rightness, in spite of the swamp, because this country back in the 1700s, that's what it was founded on. They came over from England and they started a brand new country. Frank, you have about a couple minutes.
Oh, look, we saw in this election where every major source of information was vehemently either censoring Donald Trump, ignoring his accomplishments, or going overboard praising his opponent and hiding all the flaws of his opponent. Despite all of that, 72 million people ignored the media, ignored the censorship, and decided to vote for Donald Trump. That tells you something about where the true heart of the United States is. When you have a campaign in which every facet is against you, when every attempt you have to get to the public for the most part is knocked out of the block, and yet you still get 72 million people, and probably enough to win the election if it weren't for the fraud, that tells you something about the heart of the country. The question, though, going forward is, how does the anger of that 72 million people manifest itself going forward? They can no longer rely on honest elections. They don't seem to be able to rely on the Supreme Court. It's going to be a fascinating couple of years, because I think that anger is going to be taken out in a lot of different ways. I think the established leaders of both political parties, Democrat and Republican, are going to be facing the wrath of the people as a whole. As Joe Biden engages in efforts that are going to see our gas prices escalate, our economy weaken, and our national security go down the tubes, I think the anger is going to be palpable. It's going to be real. Without a court system to back them up, without a belief in fair elections, I'm not sure where all this is going.
If you're listening to us on the radio affiliates, you need to tune into YouTube and look for WBV Inside the News so you can find this particular segment in full, because before the hot button topics, and because I'll have to edit this down for radio, and that's the nature of the time restraints there. But Ben, you need to comment on what Frank was just talking about. Go.
Look, I'll make this my hot topic. Here's where the Supreme Court really messed up by denying the hearing of the Texas case. Even if you assume that the Supreme Court did not have the gumption to overturn or to implement a remedy which would have overturned this election, if they had heard the case, they could have issued an opinion that became the predicate for both parties to do something about election fraud going forward. And that is desperately needed. And the Supreme Court is one of the few organs of government that has the power and the prestige to establish such a predicate, where they could have written an opinion that would have been the basis for people of goodwill in both parties. And there's still some out there, despite everything that's gone on, to latch on to something that would be the foundation for true reform and change to our electoral process, getting rid of these Dominion machines, implementing a new system that would be fair and honest going forward. And one would hope that both parties could agree on that.
Ben, before I get back to Frank, would Justice Roberts be the one that maybe was the one that pulling it to a certain way that just says, well, let's just not take it because of standing? Would that have been Roberts, the Chief Justice, doing that?
I think hands down that Justice Roberts, and Frank made this point perfectly, has come down repeatedly on the side of defending the Supreme Court as an independent institution and avoiding making controversial decisions as a result. He has done that time and again since he's been the Chief Justice. And if he'll be remembered for anything, it's that he's avoided any type of tough decision in order to protect the Supreme Court. And that is, maybe there's a time and place for that. This was not the time or place, because the Constitution is far more important.
Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Clarence Thomas. I mean, right there, I've named four. And it truly is amazing, isn't it, Frank?
And Samuel Alito is
Samuel Alito. There's five right there.
And Alito and Clarence Thomas were the dissenting votes. They did want to hear the Texas case, so I give them full credit. So I guess I wasn't 100% wrong, but the reality is that the Trump appointees all failed in their time of testing, and that's the sad part of this.
Frank?
Yeah, Thomas and Alito did want to hear the case, but frankly, even they said that they didn't see what the remedy would be. That's like saying you rob a bank and the judge says, well, it's already over with. What can I do about it? You take the appropriate measures to incarcerate or to punish the perpetrators of the misdeed. The court engaged in no logic that I could see in not hearing the case. 50% of the country, 25 states, asked the court to review this matter. The court not only did not rule in their favor, they wouldn't even consider the plea of 25 states. The court's decision saying that Texas and the other states had no standing was absolutely bizarre. There is no legal basis for a decision that says that 25 states of the union, who are now going to be ruled by a fraudulently elected president, had no standing to appeal the case, is without any kind of legal precedent, without any kind of logic whatsoever. People sometimes get intimidated by legal language. A lot of it is just common sense using fancier words. Texas and 24 other states are now going to be ruled by an illegally elected president. To say that they have no standing to complain about that, or to at least bring it to the court's attention for a hearing, is beyond belief. It is a discredit to the Supreme Court, perhaps as bad as what was done in the Dred Scott decision.
Okay, let's get to our hot button topics, because Ben, I still want to hear what your real hot button topic was, because this is too important. And I'm glad that we have the outlet of YouTube. Thank you so much for watching this, and like it, subscribe, because these guys in this program dares to go inside the news where you don't hear it anywhere else. Maybe Newsmax might touch upon it, but I believe we go a little bit deeper than that even. Okay, Ben, your hot button topic.
Well, I'm going to hit on a topic we haven't talked about very often, if ever, on this show, and that's UFOs. And what has come out in multiple press sources of late
that was my wife back in the day. No?
is that the level of and intensity of briefings of top government officials, including top members of Congress, has increased significantly in the last 2 years. That the reality of some of these objects have been admitted to, that there is no known terrestrial technology that can explain these objects that are being regularly interacted with by the U.S. military. The Pentagon released some very famous tapes a couple of years ago and allowed guys like Commander Fravor, who was the head of a fighter wing on board the Nimitz, to go on a press tour and talk about his experience. But there have been more encounters of late, and there are a lot of rumors about a very clear and crisp photograph taken by an FA-18 pilot of a UFO, a triangular-shaped UFO that emerged from the ocean. The guy had eyes on as it emerged, and he took photos as it accelerated straight up into the clouds. And the photos are very close and very crisp and clear. So there's a lot going on out there, and maybe Donald Trump on his way out will make a speech about this topic. We'll see.
Yeah, and just in case you're wondering, late at night when Ben can't sleep, he's listening to reruns of Art Bell on Coast to Coast. Ben,
I could wax poetic for hours on this topic, but I've gone from a complete skeptic to quite the opposite.
All right, Frank, what's going on up there with your hot button topic?
Well, I got to tell you, my first publication that I owned was called the Space Press, and I can tell you that there are more advanced projects from the Skunk Works and other places than we know about. And my belief, based on my background, is that there are a lot of advanced military projects out there that would startle you with their advanced technology that I think are far more likely to be the reason for the UFO sightings and little green men from Mars. But I want to get to my actual hot button topic, which I touched on previously. Consider these names: Senator Dianne Feinstein, Senator Kamala Harris, Representative Eric Swalwell, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Representative Adam Schiff. What do all of these have in common? All California Democrats, all vehemently opposed to Donald Trump, all spent a great deal of the nation's time and money over 4 years trying to impeach Donald Trump. Donald Trump, whose main target in office was the misdeeds committed by China, the threats by China against American workers, American industry, the American nation. It seems likely that the key California industries, whether we're talking about Hollywood or the internet giants, many of whom financed the campaign of these California Democrats, are really what's going on in all of this. The impeachment of Donald Trump by California, led mostly by California Democrats, some of whom now have seen to have been seriously infiltrated by Chinese agents, was a direct attack on the American political system by Beijing. We should not let this be forgotten. China's infiltration of the American political, academic, and economic system is a totality that we've never seen before. The Republic is in massive danger due to the inroads that China is making. You're not going to see a lot of this broadcast in the news because a lot of those organizations are part of larger conglomerates in which China now has substantial investment. Beware, the danger is real. The attack on from China is not coming with bombs and planes. It's coming through dollars and corrupt politicians.
All right, we've got to end on a happy note here, and this is the weekend before Christmas. Ben, any thoughts?
Well, rough year, and it's not ending on a high note. If you're a believer in our Constitution and a supporter of Donald Trump, certainly. So, but Christmas time is to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, and I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and hopefully a focus on the lessons of Christ. Those are the important things.
All right, Frank, your wishes.
Christ came to earth at a time when the Roman Empire ruled the land in which he was born, yet he gave a message of hope, a message of the dignity of every human being. What sets Western civilization apart is the message that each individual has merit, that each individual has great worth in the eyes of God and should in the eyes of fellow man, which is exactly the opposite of the message that we're getting from the left.
Absolutely. And the miracle of Christmas is the incarnation of Jesus Christ. And that is the true miracle, born of a virgin. And that fact is true. I want to thank you so much. By the way, Frank knows all about those Roman emperors and stuff because he was live back then documenting it for Space Press. Thank you so much, Frank.
Great being with you.
And thanks, Ben.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to our listeners.
All right, until next week when we once again go inside the news, have yourself a blessed Christmas.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.